Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 52 of Parenting Autism. My name is Sandy Coulter. I'm joined here by my hubby, Chris.
Hello.
And today we'll just be talking about our world. That's what we do on here. Mm-hmm. If this is your first time finding us, we say welcome. If you continue to come back, we say thank you. But this podcast is really just me and you sharing our world with our son, Bryce, who is now 7. And he was diagnosed when he was 2. So we've been on this journey for a while, and yet it's ever changing. Seems like week to week, month to month, we're always dealing with a new headline, something different.
Seasons.
Yeah, and so we just come on here and we just kind of talk about that, hoping that if someone can help us by sending us information or just letting us know we're not alone on this journey, it's always great. And then when we share things that helps other families, that makes us feel good too, because, we were brought into this autism community by God's choice, and we just feel like we're to share our story. So that's what we're doing. And I know the last 2 times we've done podcasts, it's been like after a month or so, and I was telling you I got to do a little more often because I feel like I got so much information trying to jam into
you got to download
an hour, and I need to download. Is so true. And we were talking the last time that our behavior headline with Bryce was about him interrupting us, but I have to say it's become a little better. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the past couple of weeks it's been a little bit better, and I think we have a new headline now is that he is crying a lot more often with big crocodile tears and trying to work through that. So I want to step back just about that behavior we've been addressing the last couple of weeks, because really we haven't had a lot of alone time to talk. Mm-hmm. And then when we do, Bryce still wants our attention and all, but we were struggling with him constantly interrupting us, whether we were talking to each other, we were talking to somebody else. And so we were working on teaching him to say, excuse me, and then really applauding him, when he did say, excuse me. And I have found that he's doing that so much more often. And I think it's just because we were reinforcing that we would stop and say, oh, there it is. We heard, excuse me. Great job saying that. How can we help you? What do you want? And then he would say it. And I notice now, like this past week or so, he's saying, excuse me. And if he doesn't, it's not the strong reaction as before. We would still not acknowledge him until he said it. But then once he did, he would figure it out faster. In other words, It wasn't like the and the hitting his ears and everything else that was coming with it. It was like he remembered, oh, if I say excuse me, then I'll have their attention. Yeah,
it started with the self-injurious behaviors, or the SIBs as they call them in our world.
Yeah.
And he was like the extreme end of trying to get our attention, but once we just kept reiterating how to properly get our attention, he caught on.
Yeah.
So it's been working
and
better.
Even his request to us, like the past 2 days, has been so polite, so calm, because we were trying to, in other, addressing behaviors, we were over the bossiness. Because he does know how to ask politely, and it can't just be, give me water. And definitely don't just say water.
Right.
What does that mean,
Right.
So, but he's really...
We've really focused on the word please.
And saying, can you try it again and ask me nicely? And then when he does that, we sing his praises and say, yes, we would love to do that for you. But not doing anything when it's just, Bryce on demand.
Yeah.
That's not it.
One thing that just came to my mind that through what we were just talking about is and I don't know even if this is related, but it just came through my mind.
Okay.
And I want to say it before I forget it, is that if your child is in some type of therapy like OT or speech or ABA for that matter, find out what they're working on. You know, I know our lives are so busy and complicated and all that, but we hear time and time again, you're the only parents that ask about what we're working on or are interested in what we're doing. And I'm interested because I want to work on that at home as well, so that we can be a team. You know, he's getting reinforcement there, and he's also getting reinforcement at home. And with us doing the homeschooling, it's really perfect for us to incorporate that into lessons if it's a speech-related thing, or PE if it's an OT-related thing. So us working together on the same things really accelerates his progress. And I would just encourage any parents out there listening, you know, sometimes you feel like you don't have time to do that, but definitely reach out, you know, and still, if they know that you're interested in what they're doing, then, you know, I don't know. It works better that way. I think they normally
seem to respond to that.
Yeah.
I have a friend that she just put her son through the early steps. So he's 3, and she's got him in speech and language and then the OT. And so I asked her how it was going, and she said it's going okay. But when she picks him up, the speech therapist tells her everything that they did the day. But the OT, that therapist is like, she said, she just seems like she's in a hurry and she doesn't tell me anything that's going on, but she wants to know.
Right.
So, you know, my advice was, because every therapist is different, but maybe ask her to share 2 things that they worked on that day. That way it doesn't seem like you're trying to ask what they did for the whole 15 or 30 minutes or however much time it is. But sometimes people need it broken down for them into smaller bites. Right. So if she thinks, oh, that's what I have to do with Bryce. Tell me 2 things you did today. And if I give him smaller bites, I can probably get him to tell me 2 things. Or if I just give an open-ended question of, what'd you do today? It's like, I get nothing, you know?
Right.
So a little more. So, you know, if you have a therapist that just isn't one that shares everything, and it's personalities. That's all it is, and trying to figure out who you're working with. But we have a great team.
And also get the, you know, he gets reviewed every 6 months with short and long-term goals. So they've forgot to email me that last report. So I was able to get those this week. So I have the list of what they're working on, and I'm just starting at the top. Okay, in my mind, has he mastered this at home? And if he has, I move on to the next thing. And so I know what to fine tune. I know what he needs work on here, and that's what I'm doing as part of homeschool.
I want to just give you a shout out and hats off to you, because you really stay on top of all of that. And it is probably because you have him during the whole day, and it does correlate with school, you know, which is kind of different than my schedule with him. But it's wonderful that you do that. You know, I listen to several podcasts, and they're always talking about the autism moms, and then they'll say, oh, and dads too, kind of like as an afterthought.
Yeah.
But, you know, in our house, I still want to say it's 50-50, but you may get 60-40. Yeah. Only because you are his teacher as well, and I am not.
Right.
But
we're a team, you know.
We are, and it balances really, really well. And believe me, I have plenty that I do with him, and I'm on the game. And I'm his ABA tech, you know, in the evening for sure. Yeah. And the weekends. But
here he comes.
Oh, hold on, here he comes. But anyway, you do a wonderful job. That's what I wanted to say before he comes in. And maybe he's not, but it could happen any moment, people. But yeah, and that is so important to ask those questions and be on the same page. Hey, honey.
How many minutes? Time?
Hi.
The gate closed.
Yeah?
Oh.
You better be careful.
Okay.
In the second world.
Thank you for sharing something on this game. Who knows what that was. But.
So, yeah, and I think it's, you know, I was thinking this week, too, when I picked him up from therapy on Wednesday, and I'm just really happy that he is able to have as much OT and speech, because I think it works for him, and I think he's still benefiting
It's
from
not
that.
hurting at all.
And
It's
I
helping.
think, looking at our schedule, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I had mentioned last time, it feels like we went from 0 to 60 with our schedule. And we did. And then I was telling you, okay, I got to scale back a little bit. This is, but you got to see what are we getting in return for the time that we're putting in. How you invest your time, you want to get a return on it. No different than money, And I do feel like we get a good return out of that. And it's not all fun and games for him there. He does love going there. He's been upset a little bit lately because, they're making him work a little harder with his writing skills. And I know you mentioned that last time. And I want to bring that up a little bit because you said to Miss Andrea, Bryce really prefers to write with a marker or a crayon or a pen.
Not
it's a
so
better
much
feel
crayon.
and not a...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So marker or a pen, but
Yeah.
not a pencil.
Right.
Driving at that point, which was why he was upset. But when I picked him up on Wednesday, she said, I know Dad told me. I love her accent. She's from the islands. I know Dad told me that he doesn't like writing with the pen or the marker. But I explained to him today that if he writes with the pencil, if he makes a mistake, he can correct it. Because he doesn't like to make mistakes. But if he writes with a marker or if he writes with a pen, he cannot erase it and he can't correct his mistakes. Well, he bought into that. So then when we came home, he wanted to write with the pencil. And I said, why do you write with the pencil? He goes, because I can correct my mistakes. Perfect.
Yay.
So, it's working together. Like you gave her the insight why it was a struggle, but then she gave him a reinforcing reason to use a pencil.
Yeah.
And now he will have that knowledge and can choose.
So we were working on his letters just a couple of days ago, and he's really doing great with his capitals because that was one of the first things I wanted to
I've
tackle.
seen it. His work. It's awesome.
So at first he did a couple sheets for me, and there was a couple of letters that he really goofed up on the alphabet, right? So he was all done. I said, oh, all right. I said, I would probably give you a 90% on that. Not thinking he would react in any way. Just let him know that he did a great job.
Yep.
Not perfect, but
Yep.
I'll give him a 90%. Well, whoa. He was like, Daddy, I have to do it over again. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to make another copy of this, and then he's going to do the
All
whole
26
alphabet again?
letters,
All
right?
26 letters? Okay, great. I mean, because that's more practice.
Right.
So before it was pulling teeth to get him to do it, right? So I shared it with his OTs that, if he doesn't do a perfect job, you can tell him, score it a 80 or 90 or whatever you think is how good he did. And if it's not 100%, he'll go back and redo it for you. And they're like, oh, thank you. Good to know. So I like his strive for perfection, and it helped in that department.
That is good. And then I've also witnessed when you're doing homeschool with him talking about perfection, which he may get that from his father. I'm not sure. But I've learned to let it go. But
Right.
but I really don't want him to be overly hung up on that. I don't
Right.
even know how to say
Right.
it. But,
And we're working on that.
I know. And I saw you working with, I remember he got a 90% because it was like 9 out of 10. And he was very upset and he was crying, but we didn't let him redo it that time because
Right.
we really wanted him to understand 90 is still okay.
Yes.
And you do not have to be perfect,
Right.
and you can still do it. And we can still do a run tickle,
Yeah.
which is our lap around the kitchen and the living room,
We did that today. He got a 90 on something, and it was
see, that's
just fine.
so good because we want to teach him to do his best, but best does not always mean 100%.
Right.
And that's really important life lesson that adults still struggle with. So,
Yeah.
it's like trying to teach him all of that. And so that's kind of a good segue, unless you want to finish on that.
I just want to.
Yep.
I have one other topic, but if you have a segue that this goes into.
I was going to segue into, you shouldn't interrupt me like that. That's funny. The ABA was where I was going to go, but I don't even know how I was going to go there.
Oh, well.
So anyway,
I
so
don't
go
know.
ahead and take your topic and I'll come back.
Okay, yeah. So
My brain.
Today, I've been looking for a bicycle for a long time, and I finally found a good deal on a used one. And so Bryce and I went up to get it, and it was it was a little ways from home, and it just happened to be up in near Fort Pierce. And I thought, well, while we're up in Fort Pierce, I wanted to stop at my favorite place to get smoked salmon. So I stopped there to get a little bit of that because it's so good. They make it so good. If you don't like regular salmon, try smoked salmon. It's delicious. So I don't really
That's your
care.
tip for the day.
I don't really care for regular salmon. So anyway, we're up there, and of course, Fort Pierce is right on the ocean there. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I'm going to take him down to the jetty. And the jetty is a place where a lot of people go to fish, and it is what it says it is. It's a jetty, so it jets out into the ocean. It's kind of almost like a pier, a man-made pier out of rocks and sand and pavement. They've paved it, actually. And I don't know, goes out a ways into the ocean, and the boats come in the channel right there, and it's a really relaxing place for me. So I'm like, oh, let's just go down there. And I remember in the past that it wasn't one of his favorite places. And so when we got there, he didn't want to go. He's like, Daddy, I can't get out of the truck. I can't get out of the truck. And I said, why? He says, the water. I said, you're scared of the water? And he's like, yes, I'm going to get wet or something. I don't know. He said something like he was adverse to the water. I'm like, okay. And I know what it was. He said, it's too bright. It's too bright. So I'm like, okay. I said, I got a pair of sunglasses here for you. So I gave him the sunglasses, and it is loud with the waves crashing. So I put his headphones on. So we got headphones and sunglasses.
Okay.
And so he gets out of the truck, and we're going over toward the water. And I said, there's a swing over there that we can swing on. He's like, oh, okay. So that's kind of part of what got him over there. So we get over there, and all the swings were taken. Oh. And I said, oh, there's a pelican. So we looked at the pelican. And there, near the swing was a bench that we could sit on. So I sat down on the bench. We didn't go out on the jetty. We were still on the mainland.
Yep.
And so I sat down on the bench, and he wouldn't sit down. I was like, what's going on, buddy? We can't stay here, Daddy. We can't stay here. And it was like 1 minute later, the lady got up off the swing. And I was like, hey, look, the swing's open. Let's go down there. He's like, okay. I said, run. So to get the swing.
Right, before someone else nabbed it.
So he ran down there and hopped on the swing. And we swung for a little bit. And I could tell he's just still uneasy. I was like, what's the matter? He's like, it's the water, Daddy. It's the water. I said, what are you scared of with the water? And he says, going under the water. Mm-hmm. I said, well, the water's not going to come up here. You don't have to worry about that. And I said, you know how to swim anyway. Yeah. He says, but I'll go under the water. And he's like, we have to go. So he got up off the swing, and he started running away toward the truck. And he said, and he said something about it being too windy, like.
Well, maybe he thought that might blow him into the water.
I don't know.
And you got to think, really looking at it, I remember when we moved to Florida from Indiana, and I was 12, and we drove to the jetty in Fort Pierce. That was the first time I saw the ocean. Even to me, that was so it was almost overwhelming for me to look out, and all you can see is water. Mm-hmm. Because before we had just gone to lakes, in Indiana, it's a man-made hole in a lake.
Yeah.
Maybe we crossed a bridge over a river. Not an ocean where it's like unending, and it's hard to process that with your mind. It may be a lot for him, and now he's just able to tell us this.
Yeah, so we got back into the truck, and he's like, Daddy, can we go home away from the water? Aww. So he was just super scared there, and now I know. I'm thankful,
so that's
very
something
thankful
we can
he can tell us with his words now, because he could never do that before. He would just be like, let's go, go, go. We want to leave.
And we thought he used to play in the ocean and in the waves, and he was totally fine. And then he was kind of skittish about it.
So
maybe something's just kind of triggered that.
I'm a little thankful that he's scared of the water because there is so much water around where we live, like little lakes and ponds, that children drown in them, especially kids with autism. There's been a couple in our city that they get out of the house one way or another and they find their way to these bodies of water and they drown. And that's been a big fear of mine. And that's the main reason why we got them swimming lessons was because of that fear. So that was my side story.
Well, thanks, because again, I learned with the listeners that what you all did today, because we haven't had a chance to talk, and that's really insightful. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And something else, again, that we'll work on. I did remember my thought from earlier, because we were talking about teaching him, that it's okay to not be perfect, and we're trying to work on life skills with him. And we had mentioned that we were going to continue ABA, but in a different way. And so we had his ABA questionnaire.
Oh, Miss Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new plan. And so I have requested the written plan so that I will have all that so we can share it on our podcast. But it is so different than what we've had before because he's at a different age, which we knew. He kind of aged out of the other plan, which probably a lot of our listeners who are newer to autism, that's what they work with in ABA. But Bryce needs more life skills and social skills and interacting with people and what to do in public places. A lot of the questions, it was very interesting as she was asking them, and I'm like, wow, you know what? We haven't had him out in public very much at all since this COVID. Like, we hardly take him into stores. Sometimes it's because it's just more convenient for us to go by ourselves. But often it's because we'd rather send one in than three in, so we have less risk of bringing something home and getting sick. But yeah, it's a really interesting list and a new perspective, and it's almost like giving us these goals to work with him. That's why we're so excited to continue ABA, because we can be those techs. We can implement those things with him in regular day-to-day situations and where he's around them. And some of it's for in the home, and we've worked on a lot of that, and it kind of lets us know where we need to polish up. And like you had said, where we realize, oh, we do that a lot for him. Okay, we need to have him do more things for himself.
That's what I was just going to say is, the other day, he's like, Daddy, can you get me water? He's sitting at the table doing a school work, or before school, we were doing breakfast or something. And it just dawned on me that when was the last time I saw him get his own water? So I'm like, I just realized that I'm always getting him his water. And he is perfectly capable of doing it himself. So Daddy said, I think you can get it yourself.
Talking third person over there.
So he put up a little bit of a resistance, but after his cup sat empty for a while, he decided to go get water himself.
Yep.
And the other thing was that a lot of times for breakfast we have eggs and bacon, and I realized, well, I'm cutting his eggs for him all the time with the fork. And I thought to myself, he is strong enough to grip the fork and cut the eggs with the fork with his wrist, you know. And so I kind of had to show him how to do it because it's just been automatic, I automatically cut his eggs for him. And so I shot a note to his OTs, and I said, hey, can you help me? I want him to be able to cut eggs and things like that with a fork in the morning, so that I can finish cooking or, do something else. So he's self-sufficient, independent. And they're like, yeah, no problem. So one of the great things about our OT and speech is we have their cell phone numbers. So if it's something quick and easy like that, I can just text them, or if they're not going to be there or something, they text me. It's really great. So I don't know if that's normal out there, but it's great for us.
Yeah.
And so one of them came back and said, hey, if you're not having eggs for breakfast, you can also work on it with Play-Doh. Just use a fork and some Play-Doh. It's about the same consistency as eggs. So I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. And so we've been working on that.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
It was very enlightening.
Yeah. So
and
parents
encouraging.
out there, if there's something that your kiddo is capable of doing and they're not doing it, it's worth it to put up the resistance, to tackle the resistance that they might have for them to become independent in the long run, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think sometimes they might still need some help with it. So then
Absolutely.
you give them that assistance, but don't just do it for him 100%.
Right.
And that's kind of what I do with him on some stuff, because he can dress himself, but he would not always properly dress himself.
Mm-hmm.
Things will be backwards, inside out. And I really don't want him going out in public that way. But I give him that shot to do it and then help him redo as needed.
So one thing that has greatly helped him get his underwear on the correct way and his shorts is I taught him to he sits on the floor, and I taught him to lay the underwear out the way they should go on the floor first.
Okay.
In front of him.
Okay.
And that way he sees the front is on top.
Yep.
And then he automatically grabs it the right way from the floor and puts it out over his feet, and he gets it right every time.
Excellent.
And that was same with the shorts. And I'm like,
yay, you figured
hallelujah,
it out.
praise Jesus. It worked for Bryce.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's not that he's not willing to. He needed help with it.
Yeah.
But
he's just not paying attention when he puts his clothes on a lot of the times.
Well, or like you said, I've watched him do it, and he's trying. Mm-hmm. But the leg will go in the wrong way, and then it just spins around. You know what I mean? Like he's really trying, but once he's got it in the hole, it's like, okay, it's the underwear spinning around, and there it goes wrong again. So let's try it again. But he doesn't notice. Like when it comes up, he doesn't.
Right. He would just put them on and go about his day.
Which is surprising, because the kid can spot a hole in a sock if it's the size of a mosquito or a needle, but he can't feel that his underwear is on incorrectly, because I can tell you I can. If I put them on backwards, I can tell they're wrong, So anyway, it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So we are excited about the ABA thing, and I am looking forward to sharing more of that on our journey that I hope will encourage other parents that I know may be feeling like they're hitting that same brick wall that we were, but still feel like it would be nice to have some support and some help. Mm-hmm. So by us being in essence, the techs, the RBTs, we have access to the BCBA to write the plan and to review it with us and give us tools. I'm really excited that that's worked out this way.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good. So the other thing that I had mentioned briefly is the behavior of the week. We want to call it that. Is Bryce crying so much more. And I wrote down some examples. I've been jotting them down this week as it's been going, because I want to share it with Miss Amanda as well when we talk to her. But I noticed, so I just want to, for those who haven't listened to our podcast in the past, or they may not remember, but we've talked about Bryce's demeanor before. And we had learned at that TACA conference we went to a year and a half ago that the personalities were described as like a rabbit or a lion. It's kind of like that fight or flight, And I remember when it was explained to me that, children on the spectrum, when they're upset, they either react very strongly and aggressive like a lion, or they retreat and withdraw like a rabbit. Mm-hmm. And Bryce is definitely a rabbit. He shuts down, he withdraws, or for him, what may appear as a tantrum that most children will do is like scream and rant and rave and kick and all of that. We rarely get that out of Bryce. Mm-hmm. Bryce cries, and he cries to where it's like heartbreaking tears. But then you have to recognize, shoot, is this a tantrum or is he really upset? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a combination of both. And how do you handle that? Because you can't just, your reaction is you want to give him whatever he wants because you feel so sad for him. Mm-hmm. And you do, but so the first one that I wrote down had to do with the glow stick. And it was nighttime, and we had picked up these glow sticks at the dollar store.
Halloween time.
It was Halloween time, had them out, and you thought that would be something fun for him to have to glow in the dark because he's afraid of the dark.
Right.
Yeah, he's doing better with that, but there's still the issues with that. So we thought, oh, that would be fun. Well, to activate the glow stick, you have to crack it in half. So you have to kind of break it, but it makes a crack, and it's not a loud sound at all.
No.
But Bryce has such a fear of popping sounds, of loud popping sounds, that it freaked him out the first time that you did it. So we worked through that, and you went in the bedroom to crack it. And we stayed in our bedroom on the other side of the house, and he was fine. Well, when you did it the other night, you didn't think about going across the house to crack it in the office because it's not a loud sound.
Right.
So you're like, here, we got you another glow stick. And then you just immediately cracked it. Oh my goodness. The tears, genuine fear on his face and the tears and that you did it. And Daddy, why would you do that? And I mean, it was heartbreaking. And he was just genuinely, I think he was upset that maybe you did it and you caught him by surprise. Was he upset because you went out of routine and it wasn't what he typically would expect you to do? And those are the answers we still don't have.
Yeah.
All we were thinking is, how are we going to calm him down? And it was hard. It took a long time.
A lot of redirections.
To get him past that and to redirect him. So that was the glow stick. And then he had the race car. And so you were taking him over to the high school parking lot, which is empty, and to ride his bike.
So he wanted to ride his bike and play with the race car. So, I think he wanted me to do one of them. Maybe he wanted me to play with the race car while he was riding his bike.
I think that's it, but he didn't explain it that way.
Right.
And the sun was about to go down, so you had a very small window of time for light as it was.
Yeah. So I said, well, we can go play, but you have to pick one that you want to do. Because we normally play with the little race car over there because it's a big parking lot. And
we took him once for that.
Yeah,
so he remembered that.
Right.
Yes.
So I said, you can either take the race car or you can take the bike. We're not going to have time for both. And he says, okay. And he thought about it. He said, I want to ride my bike. I said, okay, go get your pads. Go get your helmet.
All that.
So he knew he was riding his bike because he was getting all that stuff. So, and he helped me put the bike into the truck and the pads and all that stuff. And we go over to the high school. And as soon as we pull into the parking lot, he's like, Daddy, we forgot the red car, the red race car. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I could tell right away by his tone and the look on his face that it was not going to be good. So I tried to explain to him. I said, Bryce, you told me, I said, you had to pick one and you picked the bike. Remember, you put your pads in here and your helmet and your bike. But Daddy, we need to go back. We need to go back. So I said, after a minute or two of trying to reason with him, I said, okay. I said, we'll go back. I said, but we're not going to have much time when we get back here to play.
Right.
Because we have to go all the way back and get your car.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. So he was just bawling. So when we started home, then he started to calm down and came in and
he was happy by the time he came home.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
so we found the car, we got the car in the truck and we went back and I said, okay, here's the deal. You get 10 minutes on your bike, 10 minutes playing with your car. And then he says, well, I want to drive the black truck too. I think originally it was like 15 and 15.
Because that's the three things we do at that parking lot.
I said, then you're only going to have 10 minutes on your bike, 10 minutes with the car, and then we'll do the black truck for 10 minutes. You can drive around the parking lot. So he said, okay. So we did. We set the timer, and he did all that, and he was very happy, and we came home. But it was like, I don't know. It was like all of a sudden he thought of that, and it was a terrible thing for him. And he just went right into the crocodile tears, and life was ending as he knew it,
Well, yeah. And Bryce associates places with things and routines. And so probably as soon as you pulled in there, he knows that the last time we went there was for his red race car that he got for his birthday. So, and we also let him drive the black truck. And you've done that before, even with the bike. So somewhere he's filed that in his mind. And when he goes to that place, those are the 3 things that he will be doing.
And for anybody out there that hasn't, I don't know if we explained it before, but when he drives the black truck, he's sitting on my lap in the driver's seat. He can't reach the pedals. He's just steering the steering wheel, and I control the brakes.
Yes,
so it's a thrill for him.
It is.
And he just loves it.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah. It's very sweet. And again, it's in an empty parking lot where it's all safe, which is why we can do that. We don't have a farm, so we have to do it in a parking lot. Yeah. But so that's an example of one where you could easily solve it. It was a, time-consuming pain in the butt, but
we did it.
But you did it, and that was good. Well, the next one that comes up, there's no way we can undo this one. So all of a sudden, he starts crying to you, "Oh no, we didn't have the ice cream party. Daddy, we didn't have the ice cream party." Well, that's the first time we ever heard about an ice cream party. Is that correct? First time I ever heard of an ice cream party.
Before that, I guess he saw it on one of his cartoons.
But that's
something.
Did you know he had
said,
seen it?
"What is an ice cream party?"
Okay.
And I said, "It's when your friends come over and you have a party, and it was somebody's birthday party."
Okay.
And so he said, "Well, I want to have an ice cream party." I said, "Well, you can't have an ice cream party." I said, "You can have one next year, when you turn 8. I said, we already had your birthday. And that's what triggered
I thought
the
it came out of the blue,
meltdown.
but I didn't know it was while you were watching the show.
No,
I just got the story of the ice cream.
This was like a day before. He asked me about that.
Oh, see, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, so then one day later, out of the blue, right? Random.
Out of the blue.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no. The tears come because he's thinking about that show. And then he wanted to go have another birthday party.
Right then and there.
And we're like, well, we can have your friends over and we can eat ice cream.
But there's no more presents.
He goes back.
He's like, but we need presents too. So.
But he was genuinely crying. And in his mind, he couldn't process why he couldn't have another party like the one he saw on TV. Because this was the first time he truly understood he was having a birthday party with presents and was engaged and friends were coming. So, his little mind, just the way it processes stuff. But again, he gets so upset and it's not like little tears.
It's heartbreaking.
It's like
it's heartbreaking.
He's sobbing and it's hard.
Yeah.
And that was another one. And then we were last night. Where it was
Puzzle
okay. So it was
day.
Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It was Wednesday night because you weren't with me. Oh yeah, puzzle day. That's another one.
You're doing
This is
another
almost
one?
daily. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Wednesday, I didn't tell you about this, but when I went over for ladies' game night and I took him over to play with his friends, I was buckling him in, and all I did was reach around to buckle him in. Well, his iPad was on, and apparently he lost gems. Okay. I didn't touch the iPad, but I'm in the driver's seat now. We're leaving. He's like, "Oh no, mommy." Oh, and then you have the lip quivers and the eyes fill up, and you're like, "Oh no, here it comes." And he says, "I lost my gems," and I'm like, "You didn't lose your." And I didn't know at first that he was like on the verge.
Yeah.
So I'm going, "I didn't even touch anything, Bryce. All I did was just buckle you in, buddy. If you lost something, you must have hit something."
Whoopsie.
Oh yeah. So then he's like, "But mommy, I have to have the gems to have more power, and I don't have enough now to have power." And then here it comes. "You have to buy me more because we lost them." So I realized, oh no, we're really on the verge now. So kept the calm tone, reasoned with him. "Oh, well, listen, I'm driving right now, so there's no way I can buy you gems. But when we get home, if you show me, then we can look at it." Trying to just talk him off the ledge. And we were wavering back and forth. And then I actually, got through to him to say, this is when we weren't driving and I could actually be beside him. And he showed me when we go home, and I said, "Okay, I'm not going to buy these for you. Okay. It's $2.99. And we can't just spend money on things when I know you can earn them. But I want it now." And I said, "Well, we all want things now." But you're going to learn that sometimes you have to work for things and then you get them later. I said, I work for things. That's why I go to Team IP every day. Then I get money later so I can buy things, but I don't get it right away. And you also have to work for things. Can you work for your gyms? Yes, but I want them now. But see, I want you to work for them. And then he was able to get one there. So taking that opportunity to teach him and reason with him and help him understand, you're not going to get everything right away. And ironically, then I was listening to a podcast, and it's one where she really has her podcast to help teachers and therapists, and then some parents too, who are the teachers and the therapists. So I get, some info out of there. It's really more for schools, but I feel like it applies at home. But they were talking about delay or denial reactions. And I really thought that's really what we're working on with Bryce. Even with the excuse me's and stuff, and he's not going to always get everything he wants right away. But teaching him, sometimes there's a delay. You will get it, but you're going to get it later. And sometimes it's no, you're not going to get it, and this is why. It's a really important concept, and apparently that's a huge struggle in the schools that teachers and therapists deal with. So they were giving tips about it, and I didn't know that was a hot topic. I just know I live it.
Yeah.
But one of the examples she gave to do was, even though it might sound crazy, first you tell them, no, I'm not going to do that for you. But then when they react in the right way and they don't throw a tantrum, don't see the big tears, or they don't get upset and hit something, then you can say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you this one time because you reacted so well and you handled it, but it's only going to be this one time. And I heard that after I had done that for Bryce on one of his games. And I remember you going, oh, so you're the hero now because you got it for him. And I'm like, but I did it for him because he asked so nicely and he explained why. And it was, again, it was $2.99, not one of those ridiculously priced ones. But here in our house, he knows he gets something once a week on Sundays. And it was a Thursday, so it was a little off. But I told him, I'm going to make this exception, and I'm going to let you get this one time because of those reasons. And I explained them. I said, and then you can still get your other one on Sunday. I wanted him to know it was a bonus and not instead of. So apparently I did the right thing, and I didn't know I was doing the right thing, but it really worked. And I just noticed like his behaviors have been better in that department. Like even if we're saying today he wanted me to play Monster Truck Crash with him, which was fun, but I was in the middle of something. So I said, you can give me 5 minutes and I would love to do it. And then you said to him, okay, well, you can either go watch Daniel the Tiger Show or you can give mommy 5 minutes. And then he's like, Google, set a timer for 5 minutes. And it was cool. And when the timer went off, it wasn't like the immediate, like it used to be, timer, mommy. It was like, no, he let me finish. And then he just came in and nicely said, Mommy, are you ready to play Monster Trucks? Do you want to play? And I said, I sure do, buddy. Let's do it, So I feel like all of this is really making progress with him, which is exciting.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the crying, so
so last night, the last story we'll tell was the puzzle of the day.
Yeah.
I'll do it really quick. So again, sometimes we can get it out, sometimes we can't. But last night on Puzzle of the Day, if anybody plays that on Alexa or Google, we had all the clues. And this is a big deal because we've talked about it before. I mean, we play that at night and Bryce really likes it. He hates it when we get it wrong and there's a buzzer. We had the right answer, but she didn't hear us correctly. So I went, and Bryce hates that. Yeah. Well, the tears came. And then he's like, go back, do it again, which we've had that problem before. Well, I did not know before when this happened that you can also play it on Google. So I said, hey, we can fix this. We can't play it on Alexa again, but we can go play it on Google. It's the same question, same answer.
Alexa.
Right. It was that was not going to work. So you did a great tickle monster, got him off of that with Mickey Mouse, with the Mickey Mouse voice. I mean, you really do. You have to get his mind off that track.
Yeah.
You did that. It was wonderful. And then when you would stop, he'd be like, okay, but Alexa, and you'd be like, oh, and you would tickle him more because he was going right back to it. And then when you were finished with that, we're like, oh, Mickey did such a great job with the tickling tonight because it was different. And then he remembered what I had said about Google, and he goes, can we play Puzzle of the Day on Google? And we're like, yes. So we went in, we did it, we got the answer right.
Yeah.
and we were able to make it well. But
if we had not had Google, it would have been bad news.
It would have been bad news. And if we hadn't had Mickey Mouse, which you did a great job with that diversion, that's an insight to our world. And that is very real. And if you think you can just easily get out of that, trust me, you cannot easily get out of it.
Hard.
That can turn into 20 minutes to 2 hours if you don't have the patience, the calm tone, all of that. And again, that's at nighttime, but thank God we still had a little bit of spunk in us that we could think clearly and do that. But it's hard, and that's really what we've been dealing with. But I'm really happy to say I've seen progress going in that, and who knows what next week's headline will be, but it's all good. Yeah.
Anything else you got?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
I know.
What is it? What do you
got? You had mentioned last week that Bryce doesn't recognize people's faces.
Right.
Do you remember saying that? We said we had brought that up before.
It's happened so many times we're out in public and he'll be like, oh, there's so-and-so. And I'm like, no, that's
But there's
not
something
them.
similar about them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Either their build, like Storm, he mistakes a lot, his cousin, because if it's somebody that's kind of the same height with a slim build and the same color hair. Haley, he mistakes a lot because the big blonde hair, right? So, or curly blonde hair, I should say. So, again, I was listening to another podcast and someone was talking about a topic, and she was talking about how she did her thesis for her master's, and it was about, and the term was, sugars.
You forgot to write it down.
No, I did. I just can't read.
Your
but anyway,
glasses are right
I'll come
there.
back to it again. Overselective. There it is. Thank you, honey.
Okay.
So overselective means that it happens often with the autism mind that they will be focusing on one thing so hard that they don't recognize everything else. You and I, we make a lot of eye contact. So our brain is automatically registering faces. But a lot of children and adults with autism have a hard time making eye contact. So they don't look at faces. So they're focusing on other things. And I think Bryce must focus on hair and build. And that's why he mistakes people, because he doesn't have their faces memorized like you and I memorize faces. But now that makes sense to me, now that I understand, well, it's because he's not always looking at faces. He rarely looks at faces, actually. And he mistakes somebody at work yesterday. And I said, well, you both have blonde hair. You work at Team IP. So he called Bridget Brittany.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And she said, he called me Brittany, but that's okay. I said, he's seeing the blonde hair. He's seeing Team IP. And you're in an office, but he knows who you are.
Right.
I said, but he does that with his cousins. He does that with family. He does it with his therapist. I mean, we'll be out and he'll be calling people by names. But there's actually a study on that. And the study that they did, they had taken pictures of familiar people with these children. And then they went back and actually changed the hairstyle on the mother, changed the hair color and the style, and the child didn't even recognize their own mother. And this is when they were younger. But when you think about that, wow, the mind processes so differently because of how they're just focused over selective on something else.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought I would follow that up. I'm like, what? We really learned something and we were wondering about it. So that might clue in somebody else, if they have the same struggles with themselves or with their children that are listening.
For sure.
Okay, I think I've talked enough today. That was good.
We covered a lot of things.
I think we did.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go enjoy we didn't talk about Bryce's airplane experience, but maybe we'll save that when he actually does his flight.
Yeah.
So tune in if...
we'll see how the weather is.
We'll see how the weather is, but we do have Bryce the opportunity. He's going to get to actually go up in an airplane.
A small
propeller
engine,
plane with a friend of ours.
Seat.
Yep.
So.
And that will be a fun adventure we'll discuss later. But for now, we're going to wrap. We hope you have a great week. Anything else, babe?
That's it. We'll see you next time.
All right. See ya.
Bye.